There is a story that Lord Krishna had his finger cut once and he was bleeding. And that was when the Pandava wife, Draupadi, tears a piece of cotton from her sari and ties it to Krishna's finger. This indicated, and this began the whole movement of Raksha Bandhan, is what is widely believed, but that's a tiny part of the whole story. Go ahead, be my guest if you just want to get a limited view on what it actually means and be happy with what you know. Or dive with me to understand what it actually means, how it originated, what is the backstory, what are some of the weird things that you never knew about Raksha Bandhan that India had seen. If the Vedas were to be believed, 6,000 years ago, there was a practice in the culture where priests tied pieces of sacred thread called pratisara to kings, warriors, and people. The belief was it was not just cotton, it was protection, it was a shield, it was a promise between the divine and the human. And here is the twist. It had nothing to do with brothers and sisters. Not as yet. Centuries later, this practice spread to the royal courts. We are talking about divine royal courts where Queen Sachi, the wife of King Indra, had tied a protective thread to Indra when he was waging a war against the demons or the asuras. In religious texts, this was mentioned as a protective bond. It was no longer permitted to priests. It was becoming more intimate, more personal. It became a part of people's lives. It was no longer looked at a priestly, godly, religious activity. This was supposed to translate into something more than that, which was a belief system that we stand by each other. And we're not talking about just siblings. We're talking about members of a family, a wife and husband, a brothers, sisters. It was never only restricted to sisters and brothers. And it evolved into a practice which had no boundaries. It was no longer restricted to just families or husbands or wives. It extended to brothers, sisters, friends, people who knew each other. It transcended into something more. Then came the colonial rule. And the British tried to split Bengal. Now, this was when leaders like Rabindranath Tagore had revisited the old practices and they came up with a concept called as Rakhi Utsav, where there were mass gatherings held and festivities conducted and people were encouraged. For example, Hindus and Muslims were encouraged to go ahead and tie Rakhis to each other, sending a silent but powerful message that we stand by each other. We will not be divided. It is documented in newspapers and memoirs. It can still be found in the archives of the independence movement of India. In the mid-1900s, when a full-blown industrialization happened, when factory-made Rakhis hit the market in masses, the concept of sisters tying Rakhis to brothers it was more of a adapted folklore that transcended from the bigger picture of the original story. The original ritual was broader, far more universal. Anthropologists like Makim Marriott discovered that this sibling focus was actually new. The original ritual was much more broader and far more universal.